Hello and welcome to the Battlin Barrow. When I sort of rebranded to the Battlin Barrow, I wanted to be a kind of all-encompassing tabletop gaming sort of channel, fantasy based, which is what I'm into. So I'm not just into one sort of game. Have you? Last year, maybe year and a half, it's mainly been a focus on D&D because I've been playing the campaign. But so you may have noticed it recently. I've been sort of diversifying it. And that's what I want to do carrying on into the new year. I want to do stuff like, one of my favourite settings, apart from Middle-earth, is the Warhammer Fantasy setting. On the channel in the past, I've done real early review. I think that was when it's still known as Tales of Middle-earth, the channel. I did a sort of review of the Fantasy Roleplay starter set. It's a good starter set box. I've done a video on creating a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay character, but what I've not done, I realised, is actually look at the rules, do a sort of overview review of the rules, the rulebook. So that is what we're going to do today when we take a look at this awesome chunky tome. So let's have a look over it, go through it, and I'll give you my thoughts on the rules and what have you, and what I think of this book. I will be comparing it to D&D, as I guess that's what most people may be familiar with, just to see, you know, how it compares to that and what my thoughts are. So, yeah, let's put it down, have a look. Here it is. It's a nice, chunky hardback book with this lovely embossed logo on the front, with a lovely picture on the cover. This is really reminiscent of the first edition, which had sort of similar characters and a similar sort of layout, but with sort of orcs and goblins and an ogre in a dungeon, whereas here we have Skaven and a rat ogre in a lovely town. The recommended retail price of this is £44, or it says here in dollars, it's about $60. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's really expensive compared to my D&D player's handbook of what, 30 quid recommended retail? Sure, but when you got to figure out, especially if you're the DM, you're going to need all three of these just to play, so we're talking, that's 30 quid. I was talking about almost 90 to 100 quid you're going to have to lay out just to get this. Everything you need is in here. This has players, this has DM, or GM in this case, and it has monsters. So one book will get you going, get you playing. Inside, on the front and back, there is this lovely map of the glorious Reichland, which is lovely. I wouldn't mind a big poster of this. It is stitch bound. Don't know what kind of binding. Someone can probably tell me. I'm not an expert in the bindings, but I know it's really nice. So we have this front page of this guy. Looks. I don't know, I always found this picture out of place. I like it, I just find it out of place. I don't know why, and I don't know why. The contents clearly laid out in the sections, which we shall go over. Something that you don't see very often in a product with this company's logo. Credits, mainly because it's licensed and being done by Cubicle 7. Always good to see. So we begin with an introduction. So what is this? This takes through the usual stuff of this nature. Role-playing games, throwing dice, how to use the book, and Warhammer. So I explained about a bit Warhammer, I don't know why I said it like that, but just in case you are new to sort of this world and this universe, this game, if you come from D&D, good read, good overview. Next up, we get some beautiful artwork. As we are soon to be entering winter, I'm going to probably have this, try and find this picture as my desktop wallpaper, because I just love it. This Slayer doesn't give a care in the world for the cold and snow, and there's an actual rule for that within the game. We start off with this. This is an in-game bit of text explaining it's based on a letter being written from I believe it's a monk or something, a cleric, to the Emperor Karl Franz, talking about what's across his lands. It's brilliant. It's so themed, so good. It's a bit like Warhammer 6 when they had their army books themed. I love it. This picture is currently my autumn desktop because it's very autumnal, I feel. Love it. The artwork, Cubicle 7 has great artwork. I fell in love with it when I got hold of Adventures in Middle Earth. It's just great. It's so evocative. So here we have this forest here. What I love about this forest is I'm not going to be. That's better, isn't it? It has this sort of darkness to it and depth to it, where if you've ever been to deep in a forest with the canopy of the trees being heavy laden with leaves, it just feels dark and heavy. And this kind of, for me, this art gets that. And then obviously some beast men charging into our heroes. Brilliant. As I said, love the art in this. So the art is getting full marks in this, unlike the horrors that I saw in the 5th. Look at this lovely dog. Oh, it's just great. When I'm doing my Black Sands, this is how in my mind, I imagine it to look, with the higgledy-piggledy ramshackle buildings, dirt, grime, busy, a real working city. Love it. Then this overview, this could be a scene from the adventure in the starter set. These guys sort of leaving a marketplace. The heroes, I believe these are the heroes that are the pre-gens in the starter set that are depicted throughout this book. It's just great, and with the flavour text continuum. So what I'm going to point out here before we get going, you may notice already that whilst this book looks hefty, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to learn another set of rules, complicated set of rules with all this. This, well, as being one of the most detailed rules, is also one of the most basic rule sets you're going to ever learn. It's which we'll go over, and I love it. You know, D&D has a rule for this, a rule for that, a rule for this, and you get bogged down in all these rules. This doesn't have that problem. Which is surprising, because also my players in my D&D game will say to me things like, I want to hit them in the ankle, I want to hit them in this target part. And D&D, for all its rules, doesn't have rules for that. Combat is so blah in 5e, especially. Whereas this, for a simplification of rules, it has all that in it. You target specific body types, and different body types can have different armour, and it's simple. You won't even worry about it. Some more themed sort of layout. This is great. So this is the letter. So awesome. It's just draws you into the world. And now we're on to the first part, which is character creation, which I shall not go too much into here because I've got a video detailing how to make a character on the channel already. Suffice to say is that you roll it at random. If you accept the random rolls, you gain XP, so you already gain XP before you start. But if you don't like the random rolls, don't worry, you can pick whatever you want to be. You just won't get that XP. So our classes you can be are human, halfling, dwarf, high elf and wood elf, and this gives you a bit about them here and a bit about what other races think of that race, which is good for people coming into the world. We then pick our careers, our class and careers. It's split up into sections, classes, and then each class has 8 careers within it. So our classes are academics, burghers, courtiers, peasants, rangers, riverfolk, rogues and warriors, and then within that you have a sort of breakdown. So just quickly going over the warriors, there's things like a knight, soldiers, slayers, war priests. Rogues would have like thieves, witch, grave robbers. Peasants, there's probably going to be the is it peasants that has it? There's the famous rat catcher that everyone knows about when they think about this. It's in here somewhere. And then it goes over attributes, how to generate your attributes. This is a D100 game where you have a skill level value and you need to roll under that. So this just rolls your attributes, real nice and straightforward. Then we've got talks about this has a system of fate and fortune, and new to 4th edition I believe is resilience and resolve. Fate is a permanent loss. Maybe can get you out of direst situations. Perhaps if you die, you spend a fate point to stop yourself from dying, whereas fortune is more of it resets every game session, but it resets back to your fate level. So if you start off with 2 fate, you use a fate, start off with 2 fate, you'd have 2 fortune. You use a fate, and then you use all your fortune. Next game you'd only get 1 fortune back, and fortune's things like re-rolling dice and rolls and things like that. You're encouraged to use your fortune throughout the game because, as I said, it resets the game session, and resolving resilience is sort of very similar to that, to do with the corruption levels and things like that. We then go over some skills, what your skills are. As I said, if you want to know more about the character creation process, look at that video that I've got on the channel. Trappings, I do want to skip past this bit really, how to create your character. Has a nice detailed overview of the character sheet within the game, which I love, because sometimes you kind of look at them and you can get a bit overwhelmed about what's what goes where. This just sort of details that. Brilliant. Top marks. Then we get on to the class and careers with some more awesome artwork. This is where one of my sort of gripes I would come up with the game. If I've got to speak about something, if I've got to talk about negativity. So it's split up. Go back to this. It's split up into, and I'm not too sure what the solution would be. It's not apocryphy. You think, okay, that's going to be the first one, but then it Agitator comes after Wizard. It's that you're probably more interested in the career first rather than the class. You don't really care about the class as such. You want to be a road warden, for instance. That means you can't just flip through this to find the R to find the road warden. You've got to remember that it's split up into the classes first, blocks of classes. But here, there's not really anywhere that shows you what class you're in. So if you're just flipping through, and especially if you're new to the game, I found the road warden, but let's flip through to here and like, hey bailiff, what is that? What class am I in? Then you'd have to flip back to here. Scroll down, go bailiff. Oh, bailiff's a peasant. I'm in the peasant block. I need rogue warden. Where's rogue warden? So I don't know how to do that. Perhaps something clear here what block you're in at the top here, what block of class you're in, or just maybe put them A to Z in career and it tells you what class they are. I don't know, but I just find this very counterintuitive. So if I had one complaint about it, it would be that, just the layout of this. But it's very difficult on what's best to do, because I dare say people would have different opinions. If you've got this game and you know what I'm talking about, what would your solution be to this layout? Let me know in the comments. And we'll quickly go over skills and talents. This is where all your rules for the aforementioned skills and talents would be. So if you get skills and talents within the game, this is where you go to look them up. But what we want to do is get ahead to the actual rules. Now the rules themselves start on page 149, and it's basically 193, I think is where they end. Yeah, 191 in fact, so it's not that many pages of rules. On top of that, a lot of this to begin with you could play without necessarily knowing at the beginning, such as psychology. You can look it up as it hits you. Disease, here, don't know how quickly you're going to get diseased in your game, so you can not worry about that part. And then the back bit's a load of charts. Corruption, are you going to need to know corruption first of all? Perhaps if it happens you can quickly look up, have an awareness. So you don't even necessarily have to worry about reading them all. And then here, this is all to do with healing and stuff. And we've got a load of charts here, so that's charts. So now we're down to 172, so 149 to 172 of rules. And then a lot of that, if you look here, it has these options, which is optional rules. So when you factor all that in, there's not that many rules. Let's go over them. Like most role-playing games, especially in D&D, you make tests to do anything with dice. Now the simplest one you can do is just called a simple dice. This is where you roll a D100, compare it to some sort of difficulty setting. If you're testing one of your own skills, probably your skills. If you have, let's pick a skill at random from here. So yeah, if you have a gossip skill of 45, let's say, you would have to roll a D100 and get under 45. Can I do it? No, I don't. So in this case, I would have failed that roll with a 74. And that is it. Once you've got that, that's all you need to know to do a test. So that's if we don't care about necessarily about how well I succeeded. We do have automatically failures and successes, no matter what modifiers are rolled. You get 96 or higher, is always going to be a failure, and if you get as 1 to 5, it's always going to be a success, no matter the modifiers. And what I like about this as well, sometimes with D&D, it's insisting you have to always roll. I find that tedious, not something I do in my games. And here it's got a little chart sort of almost explaining you don't necessarily need to roll all the time, it'll just bog it down. If you think it's not that important to the overall encounter in the game, just don't worry. So if I was listening up for gossip, and there's no point, it doesn't really matter whether I succeed or fail, just make me pass or fail, depending on GM's whim kind of thing. Don't worry about rolling dice. Sometimes you get bogged down in that inertia of rolling dice. Dramatic tests. Now this, sometimes succeeding is not necessarily enough. You need to really succeed. And another counter aspect to that, to Warhammer Fantasy, you can fail but still win, and I love that. And it's all to do with this success levels. So let's see if I can get under our 45 on a dice. No, 82. Come on, dice. I need to do an example here. Wow, these dice hate me for this. Nope, that's fine. That is fine. So yeah, that is 12. I got 12. Okay, on my gossip test. Now, if this was something where it was quite dramatic, it depends on what gossip I'm hearing. So it mattered. There's lots of different gossip in the streets, but I want to find this specific bit about a character. Perhaps I'm trying to trace and track down. This is where this comes in handy. So a dramatic test will give you success levels. So the way you do this is you take the tens of the dice you rolled and just take the unit of it. So in this case, 1. Just get rid of the second bit. You take the units of your target number, in this case 45. So I take the 4, and then I take that 4, subtract this, so it's 4 minus 1 equals 3. So my success level is a +3. You have achieved a solid success, and the more high you get, the better your success levels are going to be. And perversely, if I roll 95, so I do 4 minus 9 is -5. So that means no, and not only do you mess up, but you also cause additional things to go wrong. So perhaps while I was listening in, I'm trying to get this gossip, I get noticed that I am actually eavesdropping, and they get upset with that, these people, and maybe take offence to that. So that's it, you can succeed. You've got different levels of success and failure. So that's that test. Also, next up we get difficulties. So we've got simple test and dynamic test. That's pretty much all you need to know. But now, different tests, not all tests are the same. So perhaps in that previous example, perhaps that test was going to be easy. It's going to be an easy test for me to get the gossip, because all that's there, all that people are talking about on the streets is the thing I'm interested in. So that would be +40. Now you do your maths before you roll your dice. So once you roll that dice, you know exactly what target number you're after, which is another thing I like. In D&D, sometimes you roll your dice, then you add all your modifiers and do different things, and you don't know whether you succeeded or not. So in the previous example, my gossip was 45. It's a really easy test. You add 40, that means it's 85. So that means I'm sure to get 85, right? Oh, or maybe not. But in this case, 97, so 85. 8 minus 9 minus 1. No, but marginally failed, perhaps accomplishing a portion of what you needed. So perhaps so I failed. Didn't really pass it. I've got something from it. Perhaps not exactly the exact location, but maybe the district person is in. I haven't got the street name or the building. I got the district. So yeah, difficulties are added to begin with. So you'd have like hard research -20. Average track +20. That's good. Now, opposed tests are probably going to be the ones that you're going to use the most, because they're used in combat. So this is where I am doing something. I make a roll, my opponent makes a roll, we work out our success levels. The one with the highest success levels wins. And this is where you can still fail. Perhaps I make my roll, I get -1 on my success level. I failed, I got -1, but my opponent makes a roll and they get -4. They've really failed. So even though we both failed, I win. So if it's like combat, this almost becomes like a slappy match rather than a messy, scruffy, slappy match rather than a skilled duel with a sword. So that's what that is. Extended tests. Again, these are all based on the same principle. That's what I love it. Once you've got that simple test in your mind, or even dramatic tests, everything else becomes straightforward. Extended tests are where you keep on, you know you're not going to do it in one go. In the example it gives here is picking a lock. You're not going to do it in one go. It's a challenging lock, so it's 0, but you need 5 success levels. So what happens is you make your roll, you pass, and let's say I've got 2 success levels. I count that. Then next turn I go again, I roll again, I get 1 success level. That means in total I've got 3. I keep going until I hit that 5 success levels. If I fail, it gets reset back to 0. So that can add some tension. And the example it gives here is also, as well as trying to do that, there are guards coming around the corner, so they got 3 turns to make this test. Brilliant. And people can assist as well. Yeah, which you get advantage. Someone assists you, you get advantage. We'll cover advantage in combat in a minute, but effectively just for now, for advantage gives you +10 to any roll you're making, and you can have multiple advantage. Speaking of combat, let's do this now. Combat is brilliant. It goes over what it is, rounds of turns. It goes through the steps, determines surprise, and then you only do that once, and then the round begins, we take turns, round ends, then you repeat steps 2 to 5 as possible. So you just go around this little loop. Surprise, yeah, it's just if someone's hiding, if someone's being sneaky, or if you're just not paying attention. Initiative is done in a initiative stat. You have an initiative stat and you move in that order. And if people have the same initiative, it's whoever has the highest agility. And then if that's the same, you have a roll off. So that's different to probably what you're used to if you play 5e. But you can, of course, there is an optional rule here to roll for it if that's what you like. I prefer this, it's quicker. Once you get round to set initiative, it is just way quicker in your games. Then we can move, and another thing, and this is surprising. Okay, so Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, based on a miniatures game, Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And even in the earliest editions, it's like this. There aren't rules for miniatures. You look at 5e and it's way down in the grid. You've got to move in the grid. You can't move beyond the grid. This, tactic, grid, miniature. I'd expect that, something like that in this, but it's not. In fact, it goes here. In most circumstances, exact distances don't matter too much. Use your movement characteristic as a guide around you. Yada. So it's, as long as you're not doing anything too ridiculous, like I'm going to move 1,000,000 miles in one turn, don't matter. And that's kind of how I play 5e anyway. So I'm hoping I can get across to playing more of this, because I just prefer this rule set. And we can go into the actions. You can move and take an action, and you have some free actions, which are just the obvious things like you can shout a warning, draw your weapon, and drink a potion. So got you covered there. Attacking is just an opposed melee test. So if we're in a duel, I make an opposed melee test, my opponent makes a melee test, whoever wins, hits, does damage. Range is slightly different. You just make an attack. Effectively, there's no dodging unless someone's right up close and they can make a dodge roll, but you just make a range attack and then you hit or miss. Every time you hit your opponent, you gain +1 advantage, and every time if you lose an opposed test, my opponent gains +1 advantage, and my action's finished effectively. We have hit locations. Okay, so you can choose to hit a specific target in a specific place, and that is covered here in the combat difficulty on the next page. It just means you can just hit as normal, or you can shoot a cool shot to a specific hit location. If you succeed, you hit that location. It's hard, so you can get a -20 penalty. So if they're whatever your melee skill is, let's say my melee skill was 30, I'm going to try and hit them in a specific location. That's -20 to that. That means it's 10. That's going to be tough for me. I'm not that skilled. So I wouldn't have done that. I get a 40, so I would have got a -4 on that hit. My opponent, with his skill of, let's say, 30 as well, is not too bothered where he's going to hit me. Gets a 70, so in this case, that was quite a bad failure. 40 as well, so we kind of drew on that. Let's actually determine hit location. So I will make my hit roll, and I got 48. I'm not too bothered at the moment whether that hits or not. Let's just assume it does. So if I haven't declared where I'm going to hit, to find out where I did hit, you just take the units of this and reverse it. So that's now 84. 84, come to this table, I hit their left leg. We determine damage. Damage is weapon success levels. Let's say I just got 1 success level, so the weapon will be in the weapons section. Let's say it's let's have a quick look at a weapon. Let's pick a weapon, because it does include strength. You get a strength bonus into it. Let's see if I can skip ahead to, and let's pick just pick a hand weapon. Strength bonus +4. Let's say I've got 2 for my strength bonus, +4, 6, plus my success level 7. So I'm doing 7 damage to this. We apply that to the hit location struck, the left leg. Most monsters may not have armor on success levels. It's just so you take away the toughness bonus. So if you look at a monster, let's say I'm fighting whatever monster come to first, let's say I'm fighting a mutant, the toughness is free, so their toughness bonus is free. Sometimes they do have something called, like here, armor 1. That means it's toughness +1, so that's 3 + 1 is 4. This one doesn't, it's 3. So their toughness, you subtract, I've done 7 damage minus that 3 toughness bonus. I've actually hit them in the left leg for 4 points of damage. Oh, subtract that as easy, and that's combat. But it gets really, not to say that's combat, there's a bit more to it than that, which we should cover in a bit. But yeah, that's the basic rules for combat, if you like. You can fumble and succeed, get critical and fumble. And this is where the combat gets really good. And I should point out, yes, every advantage you're getting +1. That adds a +10 bonus to your result. So if my combat was 30 and I had 2 advantage, I had each one of those I had 10, so that's 20. So that means my melee then is now 50, which makes it really easy to hit, which in this case I would do with a success level 1 for that. Such a straightforward thing, but we can also crit and fumble, and this is where it gets good. So if we roll a double, we get a crit. So 46, no. So let's just flip this around to 66. Double, we got crit, but only if we got a positive success level. If we got a negative success level, we found our combat, this would be a fumble. If we fumble, we roll on the fumble table, and it's quite a simple one, but let's see what happens. Let's say we fumble, we got 56. Your maneuver was misjudged, leaving you out of position. You lose your grip of a ranged weapon. Leaving you out of position, or you lose your grip out of a ranged weapon. So if I'm in melee, I've misstepped. If I'm in range, I've dropped it. Next round, your action suffers a penalty of -10. Okay, that's not too bad, not too devastating. Misfires, if you're doing black powder weapons, there's a chance they can misfire. Here it goes over what I just mentioned earlier about range weapons, about dodging, or you can do a shield. Most of the time they just have to take it with their toughness. Combat difficulty goes here. Now, what happens when we get a crit? Well, we roll on the critical wound tables. Yes, I was going to cover wounds in a minute, but we'll just skip ahead to the critical wounds, which is somewhere, tables towards the end here. See, there are critical tables, and each location has its own critical table with, could be little minor things or instant death. Your head is entirely severed from the neck and soars through the air, landing 1d10 away in a random direction. Your body collapses, instantly dead. And these are quite grim and gory. So let's say I scored a crit rather than a fumble on my opponent. So let's see what I'd get. 34. So yeah, leg. A powerful blow slams into the opponent's upper thigh, gaining a bleeding condition. Take an average 20 endurance test, or stumble, gaining the prone condition. So I've done quite a nasty wound there. Brilliant. Love it. So it'd be the opponent who rolls. That's why it sort of references. Excellent. So yeah, we got that. Then goes over a bit more nuanced on the combat rules, sort of fighting against different sizes, two weapon fighting. Some weapons will cause scatter, probably quite familiar to fantasy Battlin players. Having a scatter die. Grappling if you're doing unarmed combat, mounted combat, but again it's nothing too detailed. It's nothing. There's no new rules for it as such. It's just working into that existing simple test. Here we go over advantage. How you gain advantage. The main one being winning combat. You can gain it if you're getting surprise, or if you charge into combat. That means you're taking initiative. So you charge into combat, you're instantly getting that plus 10 bonus in your combat. So always good to charge in. Victory, winning, whatever, and it goes over losing combat because win some, lose some. But what combat does is it can make combat. What advantage does? It makes combat fly really well, really quick, rather than getting bogged down in. This round you hit me. This round I miss, you miss, I miss, you miss. That's not really going to happen with advantage. Then we have movement during combat. Talking about charging, which I just mentioned. That's just where you race into combat. You get +1 advantage. You can also use your advantage to disengage from combat. A bit like 5e, you have that sort of opportunity attack if you just move away from combat and what have you. Some rules: running, climbing. It's all pretty simple. Leaping, suit. And then we talk about conditions. Yes, we have different conditions you can have. I've made myself some condition cards to give to players. So here's a blaze condition. Talk about here. Just so they know what the rules are, and of course conditions can stack, so you can be set on fire a small bit, you can be set on fire a bit more, and each of these carries over. So you do this one and then you do this one. So here you can take a potential of 2d10 wounds, and each time you remove a condition, you only remove one of the stack. So put myself out a little bit, take that, and then put myself out the next bit, take next turn. Yeah, so that's conditions. So they just go over what the conditions are here in the rules. Fate and resistance and resilience and resolve we sort of covered a bit earlier on. These can be good for the game. And then injury. So yeah, what I love about this is wounds are effectively just your scrapes, your minor scrapes and injuries you're going to get during the course of adventuring. It's the critical wounds you've got to watch out for. You can get down to 0 wounds, and that's not a problem really. You just go unconscious and prone, get the unconscious and prone condition. If you take enough damage to be taking negative wounds, say you suffer 5 damage when you had 2 wounds left, you gain a critical condition, a critical wound. So yeah, that's when it gets serious, when you're getting down to low wounds. Let's say you had 2 wounds left and you took 2 wounds, you just go to 0 wounds, you're unconscious and prone. But, as it says here, if you went over that into the negative amounts with that amount of damage, you take a critical wound, and that's when we get a bit serious. And what's it talking about here? Minerals here. So, and most of the time, once you're down on the deck unconscious in the heat of the battle as a GM, let's say I've got a goblin fighting you and you drop, I'm then not going to hit you once you're down, because there's other players probably that are alive that are probably much more urgent to my attention than you. So if you're a good GM, you probably would leave your player alone. Once you are on that state though, if you do take a wound, you can be suddenly killed, kind of thing. So what I say is mentions here somewhere. During the unconscious condition, anyone attacking with a suitable weapon can kill you outright. So, but I wouldn't do that if I was a GM. I'd play it realistically, where that goblin's attention is now going to be on that living, breathing other player over there. Critical wounds, of course, this is where it gets deadly. If you're unconscious, have 0 or wounds, you never go below 0 wounds, no matter how much, let's say in this case here, where you'd be -3, you wouldn't, you're just always up 0. But yeah, if you're unconscious, have 0 wounds, and your total number of critical wounds is over your toughness bonus, that is when you're going to die. So that's why critical wounds are quite serious to sort out, and they can last even when you're up and about and walking on your feet. Once you go above 0 wounds, you can still have a critical wound, be walking around with say 2 wounds left, so they're very important to get sorted out. That is where your death comes in, and I love that. And these are what give you critical wounds. Yeah, this is the critical table. So you could end up with a bleeding condition and a torn muscular minor injury. So then that's what I've got, a critical wound of a torn muscular minor injury. So then what I'd need to do is when I'm back in somewhere safe, I need to go to get myself healed. So you've got broken bones, torn muscular minor injuries. So here goes over how I need to, what happens when I've got it. I suffer -10 to all tests in that location. So it's my leg. -10 for all different things. And how to heal it. So there are some things though that are a bit serious. There's only one thing for it. Got to amputate your arm or your leg. So yeah, a finger shouldn't be too bad. But if you amputate both legs, you're not getting much use to a travelling party, or perhaps you're both eyes. And so I think it says here later on, it's time to roll another character. It will say during this part here a lot. And it covers other damage. You can get higher for rules like drowning, exposure, thirst, starvation. Corruption. It's the Warhammer world, and chaos is abound in plenty. This is corruption. Now this is good when your players like being a bit evil. You just give them corruption points if they're going to do that. And what happens is they get too many corruption points, they're going to mutate, and if they mutate, they're going to be hunted and hounded throughout the old world as a mutant, which is not good. Also, you'll hear whispering, and you'll go a bit insane, a bit crazy, and it will affect your stats. So let's say you got a physical corruption. I might end up with extra leg joints. This is great, it's +5 agility, but people are not going to like looking at me with extra leg joints, and same with mental ones here. There's rules to get rid of corruption, of course, so absolution, always good to be pious. And we cover disease and infection. I've actually tried to convert this to 5e for my games. I haven't used it yet, but I've got the sort of rules in there because I love this. You have diseases. Diseases are made up of symptoms. So, and it lists the symptoms here, so you can use these to make your own disease. So I could have a disease that gives you gangrene, fever, malaise. I don't know what we're going to call that, but I just then work out what the incubation is, how long it's going to last, and then you've got the symptoms here. Now to cure you, that's how you can, and how you're going to catch it in the first place. Cure yourself, you then have to look at this and look at the treatment for each symptom. And once you've cured all your symptoms, you've cured your disease. Sound like coughs and sneezes, which I've got during this review, so sorry if my voice sounds funny every so often. I still have a cold and a cough. Treatment, none that works. All that means is that symptom will wear off after the duration of the disease. So I actually really love that. I love that. It's so simple, so detailed, and almost infinite diseases can be made. Psychology. So yes, if you're a Warhammer Fantasy Battle player, you would recognise this. You have like fear, hatred, frenzy. These are just different conditions. So some monsters will have a fear rating, say fear 1, fear 2. You've got to make a cool test based upon that rating, and that is the success levels you're going to need. So in this case, a challenging 0 test, I would need, say I'm going against a fear 2, I'd need to have 2 successes before I'd be able to act upon it, or I am scared of it. Again, you can make your own psychology stuff up with this. That's the rules. That is it, really. Most of that was the simple tests, and then me just going over a few extra things that utilise those simple tests. That is it. Great. Next up, Between Adventures. So this is, you go on an adventure and then you finish. This is the rules for it. First of all, you have an event. Excuse me. So here we have, I got top marks. I got 800. All the zeros. Unusual mercenaries. One or more rare mercenaries turn up in a nearby settlement. Cool. Okay, so different things can happen. This is something that I think my players are going to be freaked out by when I first start playing this in a sort of proper campaign. Money to burn. In feature adventure, in between adventures, any money you've earned, gone. Spade it all. What does it say? What does it say? All the money held in your character is spent. All of it. Silver lifted from a burger's purse, gone. The booty liberated from pirates, also gone. The troll hoard you raided, gone too. All of it. So what happened to it? It was spent, stolen, drunk, gambled, and used for repairs to pay off debts, taxes, yada yada yada. Fantastic. Love that. At first I was a bit confused by it, but I love it. But what happens if you want to keep some of it? Is there a way of doing it? Yeah. When you're in town, you go on endeavours. Is that you have a certain amount of time in there, you get a certain amount in endeavours. Some are, depending on your class, you'd have to take a certain endeavour to carry on with your day job. Some in your race, some elves have to do their own class, have to go and see their own kin. But one of the endeavours you can take, banking. So you take, so let's say you've got 3 endeavours, you can only do 3 things in town, one of those, banking. Let's go to the banking, do a bit of banking. I mean, you can have an adventure in town and you're doing your whole normal roleplay, but these are specific things to your character. Go, I want to go banking, cool, go to the bank, that's one endeavour. Change career, consult expert, craft something, commission something, train an animal, invent something, do some training to improve yourself, earn some money, so you can earn some money, then bank it if you like, or earn some money because then you want to go shopping because your money's gone. Do that. This is earning your money, is effectively doing your day job. So sometimes you may need to do that. And this is a class-based game. What do I mean by class-based game? What I mean is, I should point out, is not just class as in class, as in it has silver 2, silver 4, gold 1, gold 2, and these are what your class, as in a British class, upper class, working class, middle class, and all that stuff. So if I'm a cavalry officer, I'm gold 2. So if I'm not doing cavalry officer stuff and living the life of a cavalry officer, like, you know, perhaps I'm slumming it in the streets, I'm going to lose one of those gold 2. After a week, that'll become gold 1. If I slum it for a bit longer, I'm going to drop down to like silver whatever, silver 4. So I'd carry on dropping down, and then I'd have to work my way self back up into my classes. So that's where endeavours come in. These are going to allow me to keep up appearances. I love that too. Very European medieval. So what about the rest of this book? We still have all this left. Well, okay. Being it's a Games Workshop Warhammer, it's a Cubicle 7 product, but being it's based on a Games Workshop IP, we can expect lots of lore because it is such a detailed world. And here we go. We have religion and belief. This covers the gods of man, old, new, and provincial. The dark gods, the cults. It also covers the dwarves, halflings, and elf gods. And then so for each of the main ones, the main gods of the empire, where this is primarily set, we get a nice detailed listing for all of them. Yep. And then we go over the demi-races, gods, chaos gods. But then we go over the rules for, like, if you like, a cleric. So we have praying, sin points, because if you're a holy man, you don't want to sin, do you? You want to be a good guy. And then if you do upset your god, we got a Wrath of the Gods table. 55. Feel my wrath. You suffer 1d10 plus sin points in wounds. So if I've got 4 sin points, perhaps I'm a real sinning monk, I would suffer up to 10 wounds. No, is that 9? That's 9, isn't it? 9 plus, let's say, dice A4, 13 wounds. Also must attempt a challenging endurance test. If I fail, I gain the stunned. So yeah, don't anger your gods. Be a good holy man. Then we have blessings. These are effectively cleric spells, if you like. And then the list of the spells and the rules for said spells. Now, obviously this will take up a fair chunk of the book. Cool, that's that done. Next up, magic. So again, a similar concept. It explains how sort of magic works in the old world. Goes over the different laws of magic. It's split up into 8 different colours, if you like. Here. Details other magic as well that are outside of those. Elven magic, which is basically all of them in one. Dark magic, don't do that. It covers things like warpstone and hedge witches and things like that. And with magic, it's another thing, just like combat with its fumble tables, magic can go wrong. Magic's not this stable thing in Warhammer, which I love that. So you can miscast it. You can miscast it a little bit, or you can really miscast it, and interesting fun things happen, which I love. It talks about Chant, how to do them, how to cast magic. It's based on tests, of course. Sometimes you're going to need to channel magic. You won't be able to cast it in one turn because its success level may be 9. Unless you're really lucky in your dice, you're not going to roll 9, so you do like an extended test to cast magic. And of course, if you fail, we're rolling on these tables. Love that. Then we go over the spells list, which takes up a nice portion of the book. So as I said, there's not a lot to learn. Reading chapter 5 is going to get you going, and then as long as you know where other things are, that's ho hum. You know where to go into the book. Next up is a Games Master chapter, just giving nice advice for the Games Master, and it's quite not that bad. It's not, travel, how you're going to handle travel. Little travel table here, which is probably what I do. Little costs for travelling if people need to travel further afield. And then when we get into this, we need to unpick this, and the rest of the book is effectively a visitor's guide to the Reichland and monsters. Also explain how to award experience points. A lot of pre-made adventures detail this at the end for you. So yeah, this goes over. Oh, I love reading this. Just it's like a travel guide. Takes me right there. I get right there. So it covers all different types of area of the Reichland. So mountains, different mountains, the forests, the rivers, canals and lakes, marshlands and what have you, and ruins and things like that. Brilliant. Love that. A timeline of the Empire. Always useful, especially for newcomers to the old Hammer world. The old Hammer world? Where's my brain at? The Warhammer world, the old world. Some politics, who's what in the Reichland. We want to do a bit of Game of Thrones, and it is a bit Game of Thrones, especially in Uberschreik, where the nobles have just been ousted by Emperor, so his tensions are a bit taut there. And then we're going all about the different towns around here, covering the different towns and giving an area. Ilhart here is the way some nice wines are made, which is cool. Uberschreik, it basically says, doesn't give you much on, because that is a cool book in the starter set which I covered. Fortresses in the area, interestingly, I didn't know because I don't really know 40k at all. When they did the Blackstone Fortress game, I was excited because I thought it was a game based on Blackstone Tower, and then was immensely disappointed when it was 40k themed. Ho hum! Yay! The famous Castle Drachenfels, which will, if you know, you know. Next up, the consumer guide. This is to do with all the equipment you can buy, and goes over coinage. And I love this bit here to do with clipping, because this is just brings back medievalness to me, because this used to happen, which is why coins nowadays have the sort of rings around them, at least in the UK. wish you would clip bits off and shave bits off to make the coin worth less. Use the metal for something else. So yeah, going to market, talks about bartering and trading, craftsmanship, selling, encumbrance, item flaws. Each item will have a flaw and a quality to them, meaning they're good or bad, how good or bad they are. And then effectively, we just go through tables of items, how much they cost, and their qualities and flaws. So what do I mean by quality and flaw? So if I go over, the easiest one is the blunderbuss is dangerous and it reload 2. That could be a flaw. That means it's going to take 2 turns to reload. Dangerous means could potentially explode in your face. Blast 3, probably a quality, I'd say. That means it's going to be 3-yard area of blast radius. So yeah, within that range. So you have your weapons, you know, how common they are, how much they're going to cost, how much encumbrance they are, and the damage they do, range, what have you. Weapons, and then we'll go over the qualities, rules of qualities. Armour is going to be much the same. Has qualities and flaws, what body location it's going to cover, and what protection it's going to give in that body location. And then just items here for packs. You know, all different things here. Clothing. Need to know that if you played an RPG, you kind of know this. Drugs and poisons. Winners don't do drugs, people. Herbs and drafts. That. Yep, cool. But if you did want to be a drug baron, of course, you can. Black Lotus. Madcap mushrooms. Yummy. And prosthetics as well. So if you did lose night, buy yourself an eye patch, or a false eye, or a false leg if you lost that. Love it so much. Violins, if you want to hire someone, this is their prices here. Next, the bestiary, where we go over the different sort of monsters. So first of all, I get some generic sort of profiles for the different races in here, and then how to build upon them to use build your characters, your NPCs maybe. Well useful. And then some beasts of Reichland. So, you know, these are just your animals. Yeah, once you got this book, everything's in here to play. If you want to run some monsters, this has all the common ones in here. So animals, got some monsters, and basilisks, and what I love about Warhammer is it's really medieval. European medieval, which is my area of interest. So the monsters in this are very much based on that rather than weird and wonderful creatures in D&D. So you're going to have your basilisks, your bog octopus, and of course, I say weird and wonderful, it's Warhammer, of course it has weird and wonderful. It has the space hoppers, cave squigs, demogryphs, dragons, fem beasts, Femira in here. Oh dear, that could be interesting. Giants, hippogriffs, griffins. Oh, I just love this monster list. It's my favourite. Hydra, Jabberslives. There is a Jabberwook, I believe, in Warhammer. I have to look that up. I'm sure. As well as Jabberslives, there is a Jabberwook. But yeah, anyway, Manticores, Pegasi, trolls, orcs, wyverns, goblins, snotlings. Yeah. Just so good, so Warhammery. The Restless Dead, so yeah, skeleton zombies, dire wolves, crypt ghouls, valgulfs, Kong wraiths, tomb banshees, vampires, ghosts, beastmen, your gores, your ungors, your minotaurs, brave shaman, mutants, cultists, chaos warriors. I know this is that. Demonettes of Slanesh, Bloodletters of Khorne, Demon Princes, Skaven. Yeah, see what I mean? Everything you need is here. Everything's not here are your pink horrors and your blue horrors, but if you want those, buy the adventure, the Night of Blood. Everyone goes over character traits. There, which is fine, and that's it. That's all there is. One thing I do want to give mention to as well, which is something I hated in the 5e books, for me and my bad eyes. Look at that, I can see the page numbers clearly, even from this distance away. It's nice, dark and bold, it stands out, I can see it. That light, small light thing in the other books. But the other company, not good, not good. So, do I recommend this? Yes! Go and buy it, go and play it. Perhaps get the starter set, run that adventure, have fun with it. The Warhammer world is immensely detailed, probably one of the most detailed settings bar in Middle-earth. It's got easy to remember rules that you can get up and going straight away. With pre-gens, you should be playing in 5 minutes. And then it's just interesting as well. The classes are different to all the sort of normal stuff you have. If Dungeons and Dragons is a heroic fantasy, 5e is super heroic fantasy, and this is just high fantasy. You're not really heroes in this as such, you're just surviving in the world. I'm going to wrap this up because I've got a terrible cold as I'm recording this. Yeah, go and buy it. I'm hoping to get more of this on the channel because I want to play some games of this. So yeah, if you've played it, let me know what you think about it. If you played it, what's your favourite edition? I know first, second, I don't know anything about third. What was that like? I believe that was more card based and dice based. If you played it, let me know. If you got a copy of it you want to get rid of, let me know. If you haven't played this, let me know in the comments if this has interested you into playing it, and when you do finally get to play it, yeah, drop me a message. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching me waffle. Till the next one, guys, stay safe, take care, bye bye.